Chapter 7 is finally here, and I found the updated best settings, sensitivity, and binds keyboard and mouse players can use to dominate this new season. With these settings, you can have crazy piece control, super fast mechanics, and ultra accurate aim while using all the brand new weapons. These settings will work for console or PC and are almost guaranteed to help you win. So let's waste no time before we hop into these settings, which this first tab will be only for PC players. So you have your display mode. Personally, I actually play a lot of PC games on windowed full screen, so just in case I tab out, it doesn't completely mess up my game. This way, if I'm running around and accidentally click my Windows key, it's not gonna mess up my game. I can just click right back in and I'm ready to go again. People say this adds more delay. I've literally never felt it. Personally, I play on 1440p and I set my frame rate limit to unlimited because I play on a 500 hertz monitor. I think every PC player should be using performance mode. It pushes the most performance out of your system. Brightness, I like 150%. I think the game is too dark without this. And for the actual performance mode graphic settings, I set my view distance to epic and literally everything else is on low or off. Show FPS I have turned on, and video reflex low latency mode I have turned on. For audio settings, there's only one setting that's actually different this chapter over here, and that is hit marker. You can actually get the legacy hit marker sound, which is pretty nostalgic if you were still playing back then. However, sound quality I set to high, 3D headphones I have turned off, and visualize sound effects I have turned on. Then we get to the communications tab. You'll have to figure out which inputs you want for your audio, but then we get to the game tab, which is arguably just as important as your keyboard mouse sensitivity is. So if you didn't know for your matchmaking region, you just want to go ahead and set it on whatever server has the lowest MS for you, mine's Central. To lower your ping this chapter, the only way that's possible is to move closer to the server to get better internet or to get exit lag. Exit lag is a software basically all the pros use. Millions of gamers around the world use it because it takes your internet signal and reroutes it to the fastest path to your server, which lowers your ping. So they're quickly sponsoring this part of the video to announce their Black Friday sale. Personally, I use exit lag literally every single time I play Fortnite, and I'm not exaggerating because it takes my ping from the mid-30s all the way down to the teens with just the click of a button, literally. And for just the next 2 weeks, you can get a year-long subscription with a 50% discount plus another 3 free months with the link in the pinned comment. This is probably the cheapest exit lag will ever be, so lock it in now so you can have it for all of Chapter 7. For the movement settings, I definitely recommend toggle sprint turned on. Auto open doors, you can have this off or on. It's just personal preference. In mantle activation and hurdle activation, same thing. You can have this on hold forward or just press jump. Kind of some personal preference settings. Hold to swap pickup, I really like. I think it's a really good setting. Some people don't use it for some reason. Toggle targeting, definitely have that turned off. Auto pickup weapons, I actually have this on for controller, but for keyboard and mouse, I have this turned off because we have our scroll wheel, of course. Then for preferred item slots, this pretty much only matters based on your binds. So most people only use like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for their pickaxe all the way through their 5 weapon slots, but you can set those up however you want. This is how I use it. If you have preferred item slots turned on, you don't want to have auto start consumables on. And now we get to building with the brand new simple build setting, which this by default actually tries to turn itself on, which is crazy. So definitely make sure you toggle this off. Reset building choice, always have on. Turbo building, of course, always have on. Simple edit, you know, if you're a simple edit player, I don't actually think it's bad. It's just a different way to play the game. It can actually be really fast and pretty good. It's just not fun, especially in keyboard and mouse. I feel like it's so easy to get good at editing that simple edit is pointless. Disable pre-edits, I never really use pre-edits. However, on keyboard and mouse, pre-edits are kind of really good. The only time I'd say you definitely want to disable it is depending on your ping. So like if your ping is above, I'd say 40, it's likely that you'll accidentally pre-edit builds more than you actually mean to. And for auto confirm edits, I have this set to both on controller, but for keyboard and mouse, again, because we have the scroll wheel reset, we only need this set to edit. And of course, this just makes it so you only have to click one key to edit, and then as soon as you let go of your mouse selecting your tiles, it automatically confirms your edits for you. So it's way faster. Most of the pros today are using it. And now scrolling down below that, we have a bunch of extra game options, which you definitely want to have NVIDIA highlights turned off if you're on a PC. This will basically just tank some of your performance. It'll automatically record a bunch of clips, which I don't like. If you want to clip something, there are better ways to do it besides it automatically recording every single elim. That's kind of annoying. Tap to search and interact. If you're looting with your mouse wheel, you definitely want to have this turned on. Depending on how good your PC or your system is, you might want to turn replays off to maximize your FPS and your delay. However, if you have a really good PC like I do, you can just leave all of these on if you want to. It won't really matter. Typically though, I only have my regular replays on and I keep all the rest of these off, and I hate energy saving mode, so I just always set this to never and both of these to off. Now for the game UI section, usually this doesn't matter, but this season season, they completely revamped how your HUD actually looks on your screen. They put your sprint icon in a different place. It looks different when you elim someone. Your builds and your item slots look a little different. They basically revamped the entire top right of your screen, so like where your elim show, where it shows how many players are left, where it shows how long until the zone starts closing, and even the mini map. They made it all look a lot different. So this is going to be the area where you can actually adjust how all that looks. This pull reticle is actually a brand new setting, which just going based on the description, you want to have this turned on. I definitely recommend having your damage number scale turned all the way up as big as possible so you can actually see everything. And your HUD scale, I used to use 67%. I think I actually have to turn this up this season because that's actually way too small now. Because of how they condense the information, I think 80 will be the sweet spot. And then for the rest of these, you want to leave all of these on default, which is basically all of them turned on. I like to see my ping, so I have net debug stats turned on. The touch and motion tab is only for controller players, and then we get to the keyboard and mouse sensitivities tab, which is so important for this chapter. So the keyboard and mouse sense that I think is so good for literally every level of keyboard and mouse player is Peterbot. Peterbot and Booga actually use the same exact sense, and this is just so good. I actually learned keyboard and mouse playing on this exact sense, and obviously if even Peterbot is using it, then it means even the top level pros can get good on this sense. And the specific sense is 6.4% on both X and Y axis sensitivity, and targeting and scope sensitivity are both at 45%. The building sensitivity and editing sensitivity is still just at 100%. In first person mode, you can mess with this, but 100% is pretty good. You want your zoom scaling set to legacy, and now Peterbot actually doesn't use custom diagonals. He has these turned off. However, a lot of other keyboard and mouse pros like Clicks do have this turned on. Personally, I do kind of like them turned on with a 4 diagonal angle at 62, strafe angle at 90, and backward diagonal angle at 135. However, if you copy this sensitivity, if you copy any of these pro sensitivities, you have to copy the DPI. The DPI is not a setting that's going to be anywhere in the Fortnite settings. You have to either find the DPI button on your mouse, it'll be a physical button, and it makes your mouse either faster or slower. So you have to look at your mouse's manual and figure out which cycle is 800 DPI. Or if you have a fancier mouse, like a pro gaming mouse, basically every single one of them will come with a software. You just have to look up which software yours is, and you have to open up your software and make sure whatever profile you're on is set to 800 DPI. Every single time I make one of these keyboard and mouse sensitivity videos, there's so many comments saying that this sense is way too slow, they can't even move their character, but it's because of your DPI. So I can't stress this enough, if you're copying this sense, you have to copy the DPI. If you can't, if you're stuck on 1600, which is what a lot of mouses will default to, because this is double the DPI, you want to cut the sensitivity in half. So for sensitivity is 6.4, 6.4, 45, 45, you want 3.2, 3.2, 22 and a half, and 22 and a half. And then you want to leave your building and editing sensitivity on 100%. These 3 won't change, these 4 will change depending on your DPI. But again, the easiest way is if you're copying this sense, then copy 800 DPI. Now, along with this being the easiest sensitivity to learn, even as a beginner, even as an advanced player, these are the easiest binds to learn. I've learned keyboard and mouse about 5 different times on 5 different pros binds, and Clicks by far has the easiest binds to understand. So these are it: crouch on C, sprint on left control, auto run on your mouse, jump on spacebar obviously, WASD for your movement keys, pickaxe through all 5 your weapon slots are just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Use is on E or up on the scroll wheel. For your building binds, walls on F, floor on X, stairs on Q, roof on V. Change building edit material on your right click, building edit, so your edit key is going to be G. They made setting up scroll wheel reset way easier, so now all you have to do is bind this reset building bind to down on your mouse wheel. However, don't set scroll wheel to this one. Make sure scroll wheel is set to this one. Emote I have all the way over on L, I have inventory on I, and I have map on M or also tab. Now, one thing that's super important is how you actually click these binds, and basically what it comes down to is you're going to be using your ring finger and your thumb for more than you think. For example, if you're going to do a double edit, you have to bring your ring finger down below this to click X, and then you're actually going to click V with your thumb. This way your index finger is still free to go over here on G, so you can do your double edits with no issue doing this. When you're box fighting, you're actually going to be editing a lot of your builds with your thumb on G instead. And even with side jumps in 90s, everything is just different. However, if you're grinding, it takes literally 1 day to get good on these binds, and I think they're the easiest for beginners to actually get good on. Plus, obviously, if even Clicks is really good on these binds, then he's a top pro, so they're going to be really good for every level of player. And this is a map where you can actually practice with all of the brand new Chapter 7 weapons and items. One of the fastest ways that good players actually learn a new season is just by going into creative and learning all of the new weapons. So like this is the brand new iron pump shotgun, and from the time I go to my builds to actually pulling out and shooting, that has a different fire rate than all of these other shotguns. Same thing with the delay from going to the shotgun to the SMGs. All of these are different delays. And even with the wingsuit, creative is so good for just learning basically how everything functions, the behavior of everything, and you can use creative to just get comfortable with all of the brand new items. So you can either bring a friend in here and 1v1 them on this, or you can just come in here by yourself and practice all of this. There's different landscapes. You can turn on a custom crosshair if you want. Again, all these other pro player settings are over here. And to get this map, all you have to do is search Carter 2K over in the Discover tab. So just type in Carter 2K and then make sure to favorite this map so you can use it throughout this chapter. If this video helped you, of course, make sure to subscribe, consider watching another video, and thank you so much for watching.